evening, everybody. Good morning to those who are in the Americas or in this part of the world. I'm based in Colorado. That's wonderful to see. It was a nice split between people who actually work in the sustainability sector, but also participants who are just interested in learning more about the topic. So yeah, looks really good. So yes, I'm going to start with a story and a picture. This one was taken on our hike last weekend near our home in Boulder, Colorado. What do you see? Burnt landscape? Yeah. So this used to be our favorite trail. And I don't know how much you know about Colorado and Boulder, but it's a beautiful place to live. You're right by the mountains. There's a lot of space for recreation, a lot of hiking trails, and especially back in 2020, when the COVID pandemic started, it was a refuge. It was especially this trail. It was just beautiful. It was full of wildlife. You could see deer and you could see wild turkeys crossing your path. There were even signs warning against mountain lions, which we luckily never encountered. But it was lush. It was full of pine trees. It smelled so good. It was a perfect place to go with your family on a Sunday morning when it was already getting hot in the Rocky Mountains. It was also Native American land that was turned into a ranch later on. And then a few decades ago, the city of Boulder purchased the land and it became a recreational area for the residents. The fire came in October 2020. We saw it from our home. And actually, that was the first time that we packed our bags and we're ready to go. And since then, that has happened many times, and we actually have had to leave our home. And it's the first time in my life that I have been affected by climate change this directly. I know now how it feels when you don't even know how many minutes you have to grab your family and anything you have in your home and leave. And basically everybody in Boulder knows someone who has lost their house in one of the recent wildfires. There's no more like a fire season. It happens all the time. And every time when there is what the fire department calls like a red flag warning, everybody's on their toes. And today actually is one of those days. I just got a notification to my phone that there's a red flag day today, so I will be watching. It's frightening, but it also gives you some hope. The city of Boulder has since pushed through a pretty ambitious climate tax. And for those who know some of the US politics, climate change is very political in this country. We live in a very liberal city. So the climate tax passed in our last elections, and actually the funding for climate mitigation and adaptation doubled. So that's kind of promising. And also, as you see in this picture, there was a lot of new growth. So it was sad to go back to this hike. It was changed beyond recognition. It was really hard even to know what was where because all the trees had burned. But also you saw all the new growth coming, and in a few months, I'm sure it'll be full of wildflowers and it'll bounce back. But it was sad to see, nevertheless. So I'm sharing this story, and this is, by the way, this picture is from the same hike, and there's me and my son, just to show why I'm doing the work that I'm doing and what keeps me going every day. And since we've lived in Colorado, it's been almost 4 years now, it has become very personal to me, not just because we are so directly affected, because it's such a concern. It's not just the fires, of course, it's all interconnected, it's also the drought. There's less and less water in the American West. I'm not watering my lawn anymore. I let it burn in the summer because there's just not enough water for everybody. It's personal to me, and also thinking about my son's future. He's 4 years now. So I also consider myself very fortunate to do this work and actually to be paid for fighting one of the most biggest challenges of humankind. Yeah, I see I'm fortunate, but I also want to say that every job is a climate job, and everybody in this call can do something through their work and private life to be part of this battle. So I graduated from the University of Helsinki in 2008, so it's been a while. I returned as a teacher and a postdoctoral fellow after I completed my PhD thesis at the European University Institute in Florence, Italy. My academic work has been on research policy, European history, and politics. I've been affiliated with a number of universities in Europe and also here in the United States. And in the last 8 years, I've been working for different nonprofit organizations advancing sustainability and environmental conservation. My presentation is divided in 2 parts. I will first speak about my current organization, Future Earth, and then there will be a conversation. And the second part it will be about a program that I'm running at Future Earth. So the first part will have, well, basically I'll be telling who is Future Earth, what's our history, what's our reach, who are our community, and how do we engage. So Future Earth is a global network of scientists, researchers, and innovators that collaborate for a more sustainable planet. We have a mission to advance research in support of transformations to global sustainability. And our vision is of a sustainable and equitable world for all, where societal decisions are informed by openly accessible and shared knowledge. We have a strategy that's divided in 3 parts. So we are basically trying to understand and increase understanding of connections among environmental, societal, and economic systems. So we have a very systemic approach to sustainability through facilitating research and innovation, building and mobilizing networks, and shaping the global narrative of sustainability. So we work to turn knowledge to action. We are a research community primarily, and we operate in the science policy practice interface. Some people call it the boundary space. I would call us a boundary organization. So we have a history of more than 3 decades of global change research that began with the International Biosphere Program, Diversitas, and the International Human Dimensions Program on Global Environmental Change. And Future Earth was announced in 2012 at the Rio+20 UN conference as an umbrella organization for these different global change research programs to strengthen the interface between policy and science, and science to action. And when I speak about the history of Future Earth, I also like showing this slide. It's a little bit more comprehensive, and it's taken from an article of Paul Srivastava, Mark Stafford Smith, Karen O'Brien, and Laszlo Stolnai, which shows the significant global events in sustainability science. So it not just includes the global change research programs that have been around for some time, but also some of the key reports that have been published and some of the key UN conventions that have been pushing the field forward. So you see Future Earth should be 2012, but 2013 there, and then also the Sustainability Research and Innovation Congress, which is the program that I'll be introducing a little bit later. So we are a network organization with a global secretariat, and that's where I'm based. I'm based in the US office. The global secretariat is in charge of the day-to-day operations of Future Earth, coordination of these different networks, and of different programs that we create in support of sustainability science and global change research around the globe. The Secretariat has offices, as you can see on the map, in Africa, Canada, China, France, Japan, South Asia, Sweden, Taipei, and the US. We have 19 national local networks. There's one in Finland at the University of Helsinki, actually, the small one, but active. And we have 27 global research networks. And these research networks have international program offices in different countries around the world. And they have a long history in generating research at the forefront of sustainability science that, in some cases stretches back decades, as we saw. And the national programs, the national committees and networks mostly mobilize sustainability science with international context, and then they connect with our global programs. We have custodian organizations. This slide looks a little bit odd. Okay, I tell you what it should say. We have a number of custodian organizations. You see UNESCO, UNEP, the International Science Council, the Belmont Forum, and these help us to establish and support our overall mandate. So they're basically guiding our work. And then where you see IEI and WCRP, there should be a few other logos there as well. These are our partner organization. We partner with a bunch of different international and national organizations in conservation, sustainability science around the world. And then funders, and you always see the NSF logo. All the Secretariat hubs are nationally funded. So here in the US, our core funding comes from the US Global Change Research Program and the US National Science Foundation. In addition, we do have private funding. Us being in the US, it's a great philanthropic market here. So we work with a number of foundations, and we also have individual donations for our Anthropocene magazine. I'm going to talk about it a little bit later. Oh, there you go. There you see that are logos. Yeah. So what do we do? We work through a number of initiatives and programs and publications. For instance, the Earth Commission, it's run by our colleagues in Sweden. It's the first holistic attempt to define and quantify a safe and just corridor for people and planet. So basically, what are the limits? Where can we safely conduct our lives? There's a program run by our colleagues in Paris, which is called Science-Based Pathways for Sustainability. And it aims to produce knowledge and understanding in systemic interactions and transformations in concrete contexts. And it, for instance, includes a community of practice. And they organized a number of events as well. The Terra School is run by our colleagues in Japan. It's a transdisciplinary early career research intensive course, basically supporting younger scholars, giving them skills and tools to do transdisciplinary research. And those who are not familiar with the word, we see transdisciplinary as kind of interdisciplinary plus the stakeholders. So research that's, I wouldn't say applied, it's kind of co-designed research in collaboration with the users of knowledge, not just the producers of knowledge will be part of it. And it's actually a key concept for the work we do at Future. We do a lot of work to provide training in transdisciplinary research. Pegasus program is a funding program we run from the US, and SRI is the global convening series that I run, and I will talk about it a little bit later. We do have a number of publications. The 10 New Insights in Climate Science, it's a global publication that basically scans the field of climate science every year. If you want to know what's new in climate science, what's happening, that's your report. We always deliver it at the UN Climate Summit, and there's a lot of publicity around it each year. We do an annual report, as most organizations. And by the way, Future of the Secretariat is also differently structured in each country. Here in the US, we were initially part of a few universities, and since last year, we are a nonprofit organization registered in Colorado. We have staff all over the country. And then the Anthropocene magazine, which I recommend you to have a look at. It's a wonderful publication. We use the NPR, the National Public Radio model, here in the US. It's basically freely accessible online, but if you're interested in a paper copy, you would have to subscribe. But it captures sort of innovative thoughts, surprising findings in environmental and sustainability science. And also the editor-in-chief, Kathy Kalm, is quite innovative and has created a lot of programming around it. For instance, we received funding last year for a project that stages science fiction stories. So we do theater productions with science fiction writers about future of our planet. It's been fun. So that's basically it in a nutshell. As you can see, Future Earth is quite a broad organization, a complex organization. We do a number of different things. The global programs that I presented are more than just the ones that were mentioned, but we also do a lot of work in the offices, in the international offices, like here in the US, for instance. In addition to running some of those programs, we do a lot of global coordination, and then we work within the US context and are actually right now in the process of building a US program geared towards supporting sustainability science in America. And we also do some work in the Latin America region from our office and Caribbean region.
Regarding the transdisciplinary, was it so the wording that you had there? What kind of stakeholders would you say that you mostly work with in this kind of context? Because naturally the researchers and academics are very profoundly in the Future Earth's activities and work.
Sure. I mean, we basically work with everyone, but mostly with governments at different levels and international intergovernmental organizations. These are the key stakeholders, but increasingly also with community organizations. We work with a few groups here in the US that do community science, for instance, and with university groups that try to engage more in the local context. Kind of the philosophy is that we need everybody at the table for a sustainable transition, and everybody has useful knowledge to share. And a key to transdisciplinary is that you recognize different types of knowledge. Also, experience is a form of knowledge, not just knowledge produced in academia. So we don't discriminate anyone in that context. Also, we do work with private sector, but less so. It's more in the context of the SRI Congress. Yeah. Okay. There's a lot of complexity and uncertainty in science, and how do you communicate that to the general public and to the policymakers? And sometimes you don't have a clear answer or clear pathway. So how to navigate in that space? I don't have like a straightforward answer to that, but I do think generally like kind of science education for policymakers and at the same time like science communication and engagement education to the science community can help. Of course, like every country encounters different challenges and also has different opportunities. Like here in the US, getting things done at the federal level in DC is really hard. But then you can actually make a lot of progress in the more local context. And sometimes the states actually are more important place. Like for instance, now, like we have this all new legislation that went through by the Biden administration, and it's up to the states to implement it. And sometimes the implementation part is more powerful actually, and more more important in the process than actually the overall legislative framework that's done by the federal government. So yeah, what Future Earth does a lot is kind of training for younger academics, and also what we try to do is changing the academic reward systems a little bit. I mean, Finland generally is quite advanced with these things, to be honest, compared to many other countries in this world. Because like when I was a academic, full-time academic, like I didn't really know how to contribute. And now it's kind of easier. And also the reward systems are changing gradually. Like it's not just the peer-reviewed papers that you're supposed to produce, but the broader impact is also considered by grant makers and funders and in the academic hiring processes. So I think it just needs to be kind of a transformation that happens from all different angles. And regarding kind of the policy cycle, the 4-year, it's true, like policy is short-sighted, but at the same time, like there is increasing push from the general public for these teams, and especially in countries like Finland, people are really aware and see sustainability as a priority, even though there are also competing priorities. So if there's a push from the public, getting things done is significantly easier at the political level. You can see my background, Zoom background advertises the SRI Congress. And I decided to speak about this program specifically because it's a program that I'm running at Future Earth, but it's also something where you can be part of. This is actually something you can experience as well. Cool. So the SRI Congress was created a few years ago together with the Belmont Forum. And the Belmont Forum is an international group of science funders that fund specifically transdisciplinary research and sustainability science. And they didn't really have a place for their grantees to come. The scientists usually went to their own disciplinary conferences and rarely had the opportunity to talk to someone from a different discipline or, especially someone who would be using their knowledge. And of course, the Future Earth network is interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary, so it was a perfect partnership there. It was a bad timing, though. I came on board in 2019 to run this thing, and it was right before the pandemic. The first Congress would happen in 2020 in Australia, and we had to postpone it. But since it has really emerged as the world's largest event specifically for sustainability science and innovation, we move it around the globe. The first one, 2021, one was in Australia, mostly online. The borders were closed. I even couldn't travel to Australia that year. But we had 2,000 people join us for the first, mostly online. And since then, we've had between 1,500, 2,000 people come to the 2022 conference. Congress, we actually call it Congress just to make a difference between the most traditional academic conference and something which is a little bit more open and innovative. It was organized in South Africa. And this year, as you can see from my background, will be in Panama. And 2024, 2025 will keep moving. And yeah, people really come from all from different sectors, disciplines. It's not just the Future Earth community and the Belmont Forum communities. It's open to anyone to join. And we really try to create something that's more action forward. I do ask always myself the question almost every day, and it's sometimes a bit grueling, like what's the difference I'm making in this world through this work that I'm doing? I just don't want to be supporting a conversation. It has to be more. So we're really trying to create connections and opportunities for collaboration and focus on action as much as we possibly can. We doubled in size between the first and the second years. We had about 100 sessions and special events in Australia, and last year the program had over 200 sessions and different events, and we actually sold out the on-site event weeks before the Congress. So there is a lot of interest in this, which is wonderful. Here are some numbers. So, and I'm actually proud of this registration number because it's not a free event. We would love to make it free, but we do have some costs we need to cover. We don't make any profit out of this. but yeah, we still need to charge for registration. We give out scholarships every year to participants from low and middle income countries and early career participants, and work with sponsors to increase that number. And we also have reduced rates for participants from low and middle income countries. We had 900 speakers, 20 sponsors, 46 online events, and 74 hybrid sessions, and people from over 100 countries joined this event. And here to see like who comes, and also this comes, Tina, the question about transdisciplinary. So you really see people come from different sectors, mostly academia, but also elsewhere, and people come from everywhere. We had participants from all continents, mostly from Africa because we were in Africa. But this year, for instance, I expect very high participation from Latin American Caribbean, which was the smallest slice here last year. So that's a rationale to move it around the world so that we can truly create a global community around these teams. And yeah, just to see who's sponsored. So we work with a number of international organizations, but also national organizations to make it happen. And then SRI 2023 will be in Panama this June, and it will be a hybrid event. So if you're interested, you can register and participate online. We have 4 teams, and we select the teams every year together with the local host, just to make sure that they are relevant for the region. Of course, climate action is important, and systems transition is very important for everybody in the world. But health was also something that they wanted to emphasize, and environmental and sustainability, diplomacy, and science diplomacy, and peace building is very important for Latin America. And then we also wanted to elevate the science and innovation that comes from the region. We do have 2 satellite events this year. One is in Africa. It's before SRI. It's organized by our colleagues in South Africa. Future Earth does have an office in South Africa, and some of the people who were involved in last year's Congress. And then there's a spotlight event for Asia that's fully online, and that's organized by our colleagues in Asia. We have 4 offices in Asia. And we also partner with other events. This is a great group, transformations. If you're interested in systems transformations, this is a group of mostly social science scholars, international. They've been organizing conferences biannually for some time. And it's a great event. I've been to their events, and we've been partnering for the last 2 conferences. And the SRI program, this is a little bit old data. This is just data based on the submissions. We do a submission process. It's now closed. But these are just the submissions. Better data would be what actually got accepted into the program. We have a pretty rigorous review process. We want to keep the quality high for our sessions. But most speakers would like to be on site this year, which is a wonderful thing. We have a lot of space. We will be in the Panama Convention Center, which is a new beautiful convention center in Panama City. And most people will be coming from North America and Latin American Caribbean. This data doesn't show the submissions for the Asia and Africa satellite events. We had a different timeline for that. So if you count the satellite events, it would be more distributed overall. We had less participation in Europe, from Europe, but I understand it's a long trip to Panama from Europe. Oh, sorry. How do I go back? Yeah, and this is just how you can basically get involved. So at this point, we will have 2 calls open. One is for idea market. So if you are a researcher or innovator or someone just with good ideas, there's a competition for the best sustainability ideas. You can present at SRI and win a prize. And we also have a carbon capture prize, and that's our way of offsetting the carbon. So what's also very important for us is to create an event that's, as sustainable as it possibly can be. So walking the talk in practical organization. So it's quite a complex program to run. with a lot of different organizations involved. It has been very fun because it has been growing, and it has been really one of the most open platforms of Future. Sometimes it's a little bit harder to access Future. If you have a member portal, we are now renewing and improving. So that's a way, of course, to be informed and to be part of our activities. But SRI is kind of a fun global platform that moves around the world, where you can really get the crosscut of what's happening in sustainability, science, innovation right now. And we do a lot of networking and training there. So it's a place where you can learn a lot and make international connections. And I always say that I would love to have it as a place where you can have the kind of conversations you would not have anywhere else, and you can make the connections you could not, make anywhere else. People come from all walks of life and from all parts of the world, and just hearing their experiences is just always so enriching and inspiring. So that's SRI. We have a few minutes left, so maybe I hand this over to Tina.
Thank you, Veera, for sharing and also introducing that there are these kind of participation opportunities for persons from different parts of the world, of course, but different sectors as well. One kind of idea came to me and a question actually regarding, like, as you noted that there are from different fields people participating. How is it between these kind of conferences and congresses? For example, the work that you and your colleagues do, what are the forms, like if you have trainings and the discussions within the congresses, but what about, the other parts of the year? Because that is one question. And do you see that there are enough these kind of international platforms which are transdisciplinary?
Yes, I mean, certainly there are. It's not just SRI is kind of the big splash of the year. We do also other events throughout the year and offer different platforms for collaboration, like the Pathways project, for instance, that's run by our colleagues in Paris. That's more kind of a consistent. They have a community of practice. We also did ask this year in the session submission process, did you come to SRI last year? And if yes, did you develop any collaboration that continued? And I was actually surprised by the number of responses, people saying, yes, we identified this new group and a paper is coming out, or we're doing now this new initiative. So it's kind of wonderful to see some continuity. There's only so much we can do to make it happen. Like, yes, our member portal will be a mechanism for that, but it's also like my team specifically. It takes a village to make SRI happen. It's so massive, it's so complicated. So a year is actually not a lot of time to pull it off. And, we need to create a new international team every year. We go to a new cultural environment. I've learned so much about Panama within just a few months and the culture, so that I can operate there when I go and fundraise and meet with the different stakeholders. Like it's kind of like, for our team specifically, we don't have a lot of bandwidth to do the hand holding, like the after, but it's something we've been thinking about. And I was really happy to learn that it's happening organically. It's kind of happening without us facilitating it. Like, we just offer the platform, and then those connections happen, and then the work continues. And then there are platforms like the Belmont Forum or our Pegasus program that's managed from us in the US and funded by the Moore Foundation's major foundation here, that we fund some of that transdisciplinary work. Sometimes you need the funding to make it happen.